Hey everybody, welcome back to Miles and Mentors. We have an excellent episode today with special guest Kameel Gaines from Rig on Wheels. And we're going to learn all about what brought her into the industry and kind of tap into some of that lived and learned knowledge throughout her years in the industry that we can pass along to you. So stick with us. We have a great episode lined up for you right after this on Miles and Mentors.
Welcome to Miles and Mentors, the podcast that humanizes trucking, getting real-life advice and insights from logistics professionals from all over the industry. We sit down with those seasoned mentors who have put in the miles with a mission to pass on the knowledge gained from years in the industry to you. Now buckle up and enjoy the show.
Hey, Kameel, thanks so much for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me.
No, it's our pleasure. So just to kind of jump into it, if you wouldn't mind, give us a quick and dirty high level of just who you are and what is your role today in the industry.
I'm Kameel Gaines. I'm CEO of Rig on Wheels. So I'm the CEO of Rig on Wheels. We're a third-party truck driver recruitment agency.
That's fantastic. So, we've been able to keep up with you on your podcast and social media and all this, and we've seen that you've really built this really impressive career within the logistics industry. Let's go back to the beginning, though. What is it that actually brought you to this industry in the very first place, and what's kept you motivated to stick around?
Well, I had a story like a lot of entrepreneurs, got laid off of a job. I had owned other companies or started other companies before, and then jumped back into corporate America, got laid off, and I wanted to stay with recruitment and sales. That's all I've ever done is sales. So that's all I know is sales. But I answered the ad and it was about trucking. I didn't know a lot about trucking. I mean, I come from a trucking family, but not where I sat down and we talked shop about it or anything like that. So when I jumped into it, I liked it. It wasn't that I didn't. I liked it, but I did not know I loved it. Right, if that's a word. But I did. I loved it. But when I realized I did is when I thought I was going to also add on another business, which would have taken me a little outside of logistics, and I got sad. And so once I got sad, then I said, oh no, I'm about to pour all of it in. And once I did that, my Virgo spirit poured everything, and I became like a fanatic.
That's fantastic. It's funny how life impacts us in those ways where you just don't understand it until you're about to lose it. And you're like, oh no, I got to keep this. There's something here.
Yeah.
Well, to kind of expand on those earlier experiences, I mean, you talked about being in sales and different avenues before your current position. Kind of what were those different roles that you carried throughout the logistics industry?
Oh, no. In logistics, this is all I've ever done.
Okay.
Just truck driving, recruitment. That's it. But as far as sales, I've done it all in insurance, advertisement, sold copiers. I've done all type of sales. So sales is all I know.
Sure.
So when people say, oh, if you weren't doing sales, what would you be doing? Well, that's it. It would just be another form of sales. But I really enjoy the trucking industry. I found my home here.
That's fantastic. And I mean, kind of the same way for me, right? I'm in kind of the marketing side of the industry and would have never been an industry on my radar. I just happened to end up here, but same way. I love it.
Yeah.
Especially being able to do something on this side of it, having the conversations and stuff and getting to know the people is huge for me. But yeah, love the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. So expanding. So that's what I do now is just expand my footprint throughout the trucking and logistics industry.
Sure.
It's kind of where I am now. But when I first started, I was the only recruiter, obviously, and started in my living room in Chicago. Those humble days, the desk and a chair, a landline phone, good days, good times.
That's how I feel like that's how all the successful ventures start, with very humble beginnings.
Yeah, it was a good times. Yeah.
Well, walk us through kind of starting that and embracing that within the logistics industry. What were some of the troubles and just some of like the work you had cut out for you getting started in that?
I'm trying to figure out where to get leads from, the funding for the leads. Sometimes, you're not an employee, so you're actually a bill for the trucking companies, right?
Right.
So even though it might be a net 30, that doesn't mean they're going to pay you in 30 days, right? People are late on their bills. So having to maybe do other freelance things or drive for Uber to make sure I get money for my leads, things like that, just to make sure I keep having leads in any business is what the most important thing is. If you have leads, you still in business.
Yeah.
So being in sales all of these years, I knew that as long as I can keep leads going, I'm fine.
Right. I think that's fascinating. You bring that up. And I think that kind of proves to why you're successful today, hearing those beginning stories of, having to drive Uber and stuff just to afford your leads. I mean, that right there is what separates you from the rest, right? That's that entrepreneurial mindset that you're going to make this thing work. And, a lot of people don't have that. So just kudos for you for doing what it needs to, or doing what needs to be done to get it there.
Yeah, you have to do what you have to do to get it done. So when I say things like that and no days off, still down, even when I say, oh, I'm going to take a day off, it's not truly a day off, because you have to do something. But when I say, you have to do this or have to do that, and people will say, no, I'm not doing that. I just kind of, I'm not, you have to know what you're put here for. And I'm not put here to convince you to do what's best for your family. There are people here for that. Mother Teresa. That's not me. Right?
Sure.
So, and we also have another saying in old school sales. I don't sell stupid. Okay.
Love it.
So yeah, you have to do what it takes to take care of your family. And when you pray to God as far as abundance, then I can't complain about what it takes to keep that abundance going. I get tired, absolutely.
Yeah.
I get sick, you can hear it, but I still try to do what it takes.
Yeah.
I fall short. Absolutely, I'm a human. But,
for sure. Yeah. And I think so much of that is or is going to be relatable to our driver crowd, especially that owner operator crowd. That if you're not on the road, those wheels aren't turning. You're not making money, and they face a lot of those same entrepreneurial challenges that you got to do what it takes to get it done.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's real quick, just kind of high level breakdown. The majority of our audience are going to be in the loop on this, but for those that aren't, when it comes to recruitment and retention, where does that come into play, and kind of what is a high level understanding of that for someone just getting into the industry?
If you're a driver, as far as a driver,
yeah.
If they're driving, your thought pattern needs to be, when you get in, you want to realize that this is an entryway into a wonderful career. Okay. Yeah. And you want to sustain yourself and retain yourself within this industry. So that's retaining yourself here. Okay. Your first job may not be the one that you stay for a long time. You do have some drivers, that stay at their first carrier for years, but a lot of them don't, because the pay typically isn't the best, right? But if you could stay for 6 months to a year, that's great, because you'll be able to get that good OTR experience.
Sure.
At least a year worth of OTR experience is phenomenal. Even if you want local, because you have some local positions that will not take you without OTR experience, because there are things that OTR will teach you that local won't.
Mm. Yeah, no, that's fantastic insight there. A lot of these guys just getting started in the industry, they kind of get faced with that immediately. Do I go company? Do I go owner operator? What would kind of be your insight there?
You need to go company. There's no reason to immediately become a business owner when you don't know about trucking.
Right.
You need to know about the ins and outs. I don't suggest anybody become a business owner as a truck. That literally means that you'll be a business owner.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of regulations. You'll lose your shirt. There are a lot of regulations and a lot of things that you have to do and know about. So first of all, you need to go out there and learn how to be a driver first and foremost. Then start learning more about the regulations. Then learn more about business and things like that. Ego has no place in business.
Yeah.
And that's a twofer situation. And then you need to know who needs to be on your team, because you can't or you shouldn't be behind the wheel and also doing all of this other stuff. You need to be able to know what technology or what other software that you need to help. Even if you're going to be the driver, you need to know what accounting software you need, what bookkeeping softwares, what all of this type of stuff that you're going to need. This isn't back in the 60s or 70s, right? So you need these things, because when you're on the road, you need to be driving. That's what you need to be doing. Okay? And you need to make sure that you have an accountant. And if you have your QuickBooks or whatever your bookkeeping software is, you just hit a button and you send it off to your accountant. Those are the people that are on your team.
I think that's dead on. And, we've had that conversation where, especially, the old school truckers that just kind of do it all themselves. And there's so much on any driver. But this industry is so much different from any other business out there, especially from the entrepreneurial point, because any other business, you're able to sit at a desk and focus on this or go and do that. It's like, well, in trucking, especially, you're behind that wheel and you can't just whip out your laptop and stuff while you're driving down the road. You've got the job itself that is so demanding and, takes that time. And then you've got to figure out when to put in the rest of it. So that's fantastic insight to bring in that team. And I think, going that route of being a company driver, even if you have the ambitions of when you first get in of, hey, I'm going to be a fleet owner, whatever, that's part of your business plan. Like, get in that company driver position and learn from somebody that's already in the game and put that towards or on your roadmap to where you want to be as a business owner down the road.
Yeah, and because you are driving, you have time to you're in that truck for 11 hours. That 11 hours can be your university, right? You can listen to podcasts. You can listen to a lot of things. Like I wrote a book about competing with giants, right? You can compete with these larger companies of their do's and don'ts and listen to the book or read the book or what have you, and be able to scale, or just with your one truck.
Yeah.
So you can know the things to do.
Such a great point, especially in today's world, like you're mentioning. I mean, there is so much content out there that they could be listening to while driving. And I mean, 100%, so much knowledge that can be attained during that time.
Yeah.
Well, if we can take it back just a step for a minute, you've grown Rig on Wheels from that solo operation to a full team. Mm-hmm. What were some of the biggest challenges from going from that solo point to building the team out within that recruitment retention space?
The building the team is building a team, because you have to be able to know who to get, what to do, things like that. You're going to make your mistakes. You need to be okay with making the mistakes.
Yeah,
that's the part. Knowing that the mistakes is just part of it, and not listening to the outside. You have to be aware that you can't listen to people that haven't done what you're doing.
Right.
And you'll have so many people that's going to tell you what to do and they haven't done it. So you have to be aware of that. So, but that's what's the biggest thing, is just literally building the team is part of it. But when you realize what it is that you want, you draw down a picture, you write down what it is you want, whether it's written or literally draw it out like an art, and then write it down what it is that you want. And then you start figuring out who are these people that need to fit into that.
That's a fantastic way to look at it. I love that. I mean, it's kind of like a business vision board, right?
Yeah, definitely. And that's what it was, a business vision board. Absolutely.
That's fantastic. I love that concept of looking at it in that manner, because I think it is a lot easier to really figure out those missing puzzle pieces in that approach versus just being like, what do I need? But actually,
no, you have to write it down and envision what it is. Write it down, because if it's not written down, it's just a dream. But you have to really see it and say, okay, this is what I need. This is what I need. And sometimes you can't get this right away, and you have to put a Band-Aid on it. And if you get this team member, you let her know, okay, we're going to get this other person, but until then, we need this. So you just get buy-in with your team.
That's
and
fantastic.
I always hire people that believe in continuous education.
I love that.
And if you do not believe in continuous education and rig on wheels, you won't make it.
Hey, I think that is a gold standard to live by, especially in an industry like logistics that is so heavily regulated, and like, you've got to know it. And especially when it changes, you got to be ready for it. So
you got to be ready for it. And with technology and AI, everything changes like this, like this. And so if you're not one that can change and adapt very quickly, then it's not going to work, because that's how things go, especially on the logistics side. Trucking, we're so antiquated, but on the logistics side, it's
You know, that's an interesting point to kind of jump into, because we're seeing so much, not just in trucking and logistics, but worldwide right now with AI and growing technologies that just seem to be doubling, tripling at an outrageous rate. By the time we even start to get used to what it is, it's something else. How do you see that approaching trucking and logistics in, say, the next 10 to 15 years? What do you see being some major changes coming our way?
How we recruit, how we build relationships is going to grow. It's going to help automate things so we can be able to build relationships better. And the things that take us so long to do and it's so tedious, we don't have to deal with those as much. So it give us the opportunity to put our energy towards building relationships. And do more of that, the more important things that need to be done. So,
touching in a little bit on the retention side, kind of looking at, as companies start to evolve and become small fleets and so forth, retention's obviously a big challenge in trucking. For small fleet owners or new companies, why is it so crucial to focus on retention early on? And what are some initial steps that they can take to build that loyalty among their drivers?
I think in the very beginning, all the way from how you market to your drivers, first decide what your culture of your company is going to be.
Right.
Okay. It doesn't mean that when you hire this driver, it's like a relationship, right? So the same guy that will work for me isn't going to work for Keisha. It doesn't mean that he's a bad guy. It's just the wrong guy.
Right.
Right. So I have an overweight client hauler. And I said, it's not that you all have been hiring the wrong bad drivers. It's the wrong drivers. Right.
Yeah.
You all have, your drivers stay out 3 to 4 weeks. I'm listening to your phone calls. You tell the drivers they stay out 3 to 4 weeks, and these drivers will say, well, I really like only staying out 2 weeks, but maybe I can do it. Immediately, that's a no for that driver. You should pass on that driver. That driver is not good for this company.
Yeah.
Because they're hesitating. They're going to mess up your retention. They're going to mess up their job history, right? There are drivers that love staying out 3 to 4 weeks and would love this pay.
Yeah.
Love everything about it. You just have to find that driver. Same thing with a relationship. So it starts from the marketing, and it starts from putting your foot down with that. Also, when you're on the phone with a driver, if you have a driver that is not professional, if being extremely professional, or whatever your culture is at your company, if they're not paying attention on their phone, get off the phone with the driver. If they're not showing up for orientation, don't schedule them another orientation.
Right.
Things like that. Because that messes up the retention of your company. Also, the team morale.
Right.
Of the other drivers. Because it puts more pressure. Then you have shippers. So when it goes to negotiating your rates, because you haven't been on time, because those same drivers are not going to be on time because they're not professional drivers, then the rates go down. So that means you overall have to pay lower. All because of those bad apples.
Yeah.
These drivers have to pay for these particular drivers. Don't be so thirsty to put drivers in your seat. Wait on the drivers that work for the culture of your company.
That's fantastic insight. I love the way you approach that there. Now, as we look through a lot of your content, it shows that you've been heavily involved in DEI initiatives in trucking. How does DEI practices benefit the industry? And what are some steps that companies can take for a more inclusive environment for drivers from diverse backgrounds?
Oh my goodness. DEI works for our industry. Yes, so greatly. Because let's just think about it here. So first, you have where you have companies that are wanting more women to be involved, right? Well, that's an underrepresented group of folk. And women tend to need to get off at certain times because they have more responsibilities at home, their kids and stuff like that. Well, you have certain companies, especially logistics companies that have trucks. They don't consider themselves trucking companies, but they're logistics companies that have trucks. The times that they typically get off would work for women.
Right.
Okay. So you have things like that. Also, when you look around, whether it be a real table or a fictitious table or virtual table, if everybody looks the same, if everybody looks like me, you're not going to have any fresh ideas.
Right.
you're not going to have any growth. Okay. So majority of everybody that works at Rig on Wheels is remote. Okay.
Okay.
At the conferences, at our meetings that we have, if what you say is the same thing I say, I don't need you to come to the meeting. You're not beneficial to the meeting. Okay. I need you to say something different. So if you do agree with what I say, that's wonderful, but I need you to add more to it.
Right.
Because my word isn't the only thing. I hire people that are smarter than me.
Sure.
Because if I'm the smartest person at the company, then I'm wasting money by hiring you. And I don't need you, right? So it's the same exact thing when it comes to our drivers. Our faces of the road, literally our initiative, our calendar, that's what it's about. Our customers are everything, right? Our drivers represent our customers. So people in the boardrooms, everybody needs to represent everybody. If the people in the suits don't look like the drivers, how can they represent and make regulations for the ones that are driving? That's stupid. There's no other word that can be said for that. Okay. But you need people of different ethnicities, different backgrounds, different education, different ages, genders, ideologies, everything in order to make a difference and in order for growth to happen. And that is the reason why trucking so much is so antiquated behind every chain in the supply industry.
Yeah.
Is the most antiquated part of the chain is because we are the lowest when it comes to the DEI. From the execs, the only part that has the most DEI is the truck drivers.
Yeah.
But then when you see them portrayed, you don't see the DEI on anything except the face of the road calendar.
Right.
So, but we need to change that. And we need to show that we celebrate everybody and celebrate the ages and everything, because everybody has a voice.
Yeah.
And what people say, the youngest person within our company yesterday, just turned 21.
Wow. Yeah.
And she writes the blogs for Rig on Wheels.
That's fantastic.
And she's one of the recruiters.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
I don't think you said a single thing there that I disagree with. And I especially love the aspect of you kind of talking about it from the stance of that business owner and the type of people that you go after. I think it's kind of inspiring, honestly, just from the front of like business above ego, right? Like, this isn't about me. I can't be the smartest person here or we're going to fail. We've got to get this diverse crowd of people that are thinking differently. And even if it's something like, no, that's a horrible idea, we need to hear it so we can judge it out and really see what is the path forward. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. And this is the thing. I want your idea to work because I hired you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I can take credit for hiring you.
Yeah, I love that.
Why wouldn't I want your idea to work? And so when I am in the hiring space, I need people that are going to work well for the department, work well for Rig on Wheels, and they have to be smarter than I am in that subject. And how willing are they where they're going to branch out and bring more to Rig on Wheels. I don't want it to be where they're just going to be caged in whatever that is.
Right.
Because we're a small company. So I need it to be where eventually they want to grow.
Sure. I love that. That's fantastic.
We can't afford for them to only want to do.
That's a good point. That is. Now, looking at that from the mentorship aspect, Miles and mentors, we got to tap into that.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. So to tap into that mentorship aspect there, just to kind of pick your brain a little bit, first and foremost, how important do you think it is in business in general, but in this industry, to have ongoing mentorship? And then if we can tap into what's mentorship looked like throughout your career.
Let me tell you something. Mentorship within truck driving is absolute. It is, I want the retention at these carriers to be pristine. But more importantly, I want retention within trucking.
Yes.
Okay. We can't keep our guys and gals within the trucking industry without mentorship. Okay. So there needs to be mentorship ongoing in these companies. And then the drivers themselves need to attach themselves to different associations that they see themselves in.
Yeah.
And I don't mean just ethnicity. As you're growing as a person, it could be generational or whatever it is, you're going to see yourself and you're going to identify with certain like minds, right? One of my like minds is TMSA, Transportation Marketing and Sales Association.
Okay.
I feel so at home with those group of folk.
Right.
Okay. I'm also in the African American Trucking Association. I'm also in Women in Trucking. I'm in quite a few different trucking associations, but the Transportation Marketing and Sales Association, let me tell you. And I'm also within that association, and I'm part of the DEI committee, and they feed my soul within this. And they are the ones, when I'm having a great week, I text them. When I'm having, like, I just feel like my world is caving in, I text them. Yeah. So you have to find your folk. And that's the reason why I said they don't have to be your skin color, because they're not my skin color, just to throw it out there. So I do want to say that to everyone, but you have to know what that is for you and where you are in your journey in life. It could be age, it could be generation, it could be all type of stuff, for you, whatever it is for you. But mentorship, when I started in trucking, basically who brought me in was Larry Johnson. And I worked under his umbrella within Recruitment. And he brought me in 15 years ago, but it's grown into more than that. He's really been like a father figure to me.
Right.
And he's just recently retired, I think this month, actually, October.
Hey.
So, yeah, almost 30 years for him.
That's fabulous.
Yes, almost 30 years. Or 29 years. That's 30. Right. We could just say 30. What the hell, right?
Hey, he's earned it.
Yes, and he's spending time with his grandkids and all of that. But that has been my mentor, and it's very, very important to have a mentor. Yeah, it's very important. It'll have you where you think make you think differently about
Right.
certain things. And even right now, 15 years this January, I can remember back. Somebody will say something, one of my recruiters will say something, Raven, the recruitment manager, and I'll repeat something back to her that Larry said to me 10 years ago or something, you know. And it's just, so it's very important. And you will get times where you'll do like I did and repeat something back. Yeah.
Now, I know in your position, you've had the opportunity to kind of, you know, intentionally or not, be that mentor as well for many people around you. But especially with what you do in content, with your podcast, the posts you put out, all that, you become this mentor for people that you don't know, right? And you don't know that connection. How has that kind of worked for you? What are your thoughts on that? You know, people out there connecting and learning and looking up to your way of business in the career, and you never getting to meet them or you have that direct relationship with them.
When somebody tells me that, and then they tell me stories, and then they tell me how far back, and they'll tell me specific things, and I'll remember that particular thing, and I'll remember where I was, and I remember what I might have been going through, or how hard I was on myself at that time.
Yeah.
And how I had to push through, or whatever it is. I get emotional. I'm a woman, so I get emotional about it. And I'll just say, you know, thank God that I actually put that content out, or Darcella, or my best friend Terrell, which works for Rig on Wheels as well, you know, pushed me to, you know, do it. Because you just never know. You can't be what you don't see.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm very thankful to that, because they don't know how that helps me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it helps me a lot.
Well, I love the point you just put there about, thank God I actually put that content out there. Because I think, you know, growing through business, it's really easy to fall in that trap of like, well, what's the term I'm trying to look for? Like imposter syndrome, right? Like there's so many people out there that are where I'm at or way beyond me. I have no business putting this out there, right? But then approaching it from like how the show does, you know, gearing out towards those just getting started, you never know how much they've searched and they see a bunch on the topic, but no one ever touches on that single point that you touch on, or no one gives it from that perspective that you're giving it from. And, you know, whether it's duplicated or not, I think it is. There's something to be said about just put that out there, because somebody's going to grow from it.
My daughter is the one that told me that I should be ashamed that I'm not putting things out there for all the Black and brown girls, because I'm an Afro-Mexican, and my mom is Black and my father is Afro-Mexican. And she says, because even if it is a duplication, nobody's going to say it like me.
Yeah.
And because I'm such an introvert, I'm an extreme introvert, in fact. And like even at conferences, sometimes I have to go back to the room just to kind of recharge. You know, I'm that type of introvert.
Sure.
And it just made me cry, because I'm like, I got to do this for my daughter. You know what I mean? You know, and she just turned 21. Our birthdays are the same time in September.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. September 3rd is her, and I'm September 5th. And I just started crying. I'm always crying and cursing. And I was like, she's right. And, you know, my team still has to push me and stuff. Don't get me wrong. And that's why my team can't be like softies. They got to be, you know, hard. You know, I know who I have to hire. I can't have like soft people. And so, because I'm like, she's right. You know, how she was like, she told me, I was like, how dare you, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. She called me a fraud. Damn. I was like, okay. Yeah.
Motivation.
Yeah.
Well, for what it's worth, I think you're doing a fantastic job. I've really loved the content you put out, been keeping up with you, and just stoked to be able to have the opportunity to sit down with you today and pick your brain a little bit. I'll tell you right now, though, you are definitely one of those people in the industry that I feel like I've only picked the tip of the iceberg, and I need to have you back on for like 20 more episodes.
Oh yeah,
there's so
I
much
love.
else I can unpack.
Well, first I want to say this: I really love your setup and everything. So
Oh, thank you.
yeah, I just, and I'm not one to just give compliments. I'm a Virgo, so it's probably the opposite. I think the glass half full is not negative. So, but I just love everything. This is awesome.
Well, thank you. Well, as we gear towards wrapping up here, anything you think we missed on, some good advice for truckers getting into the industry that you think they should know?
I think this is the best industry. So whether or not you're starting out as a truck driver and you want to be a truck driver forever, and
Right.
you want to do it and become a trainer and do things like that, or if you want to be a truck driver and then go to school for supply chain and then go up the ranks from there, this is such a great industry, and I'm so proud of you to be coming into an industry that really controls America.
Yeah.
Like, what you do matters. Like, literally, you bring what you bring to the hospital is what saves somebody's mother's life.
Yeah.
Who else? There's nothing else.
No, that's a killer point. And, we always hear it, and there's total truth to it. You can't downplay it. We always hear about, truckers put the food on the table. They put the food on the shelves in the store. But that's an interesting point that we often forget. They put the supplies in the hospital that keep those people alive. Like, put that in any context you want. It came in on
like a truck driver saved my mama's life when she had to have emergency surgery. Like, legit, if it was not for the truck driver.
Yeah, that's intense.
The doctor could have been there all he wanted, but if he hadn't had the aspiratus, what was he gonna do?
That is so true. So true. Nailed it. Love it. Well, Kameel, thank you again so much for letting us take a little bit of time out of your day, especially while you've been under the weather. I know this time of year is a challenge on all of us, so you've been an absolute trooper. So thank you again so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you a lot.
Fantastic. Well, we do hope to get you on again in the future if you wouldn't mind. I know there's so much more we can tap into.
Oh, yes.
All right. Fantastic. Well, thanks again for coming on, and all you out there watching, thank you so much. Make sure you like and subscribe. And I didn't give you the chance, and we need to give you the chance. We're going to get it in the show notes below, but tell them some shameless plugs. How can they get a hold of you, your show, all that good stuff?
YouTube, the Rig on Wheels on YouTube, and we're Rig on Wheels on all platforms. And then book is Competing with Giants, and I'll give you that SamScart link, so you'll be able to put that down there as well.
Fantastic. So make sure you guys go and check all of that out. We'll get it in the notes below. And until next time, stay safe out there. Have a great day.
Thanks. Bye.